I've been seeing a ton of videos online about why men should not go to therapy, how it is dangerous and damaging, and how it could really hurt you. Now, I am a therapist myself, but I will say earlier on in my life, I held that view. When my wife and I were dating, I'm from Mississippi, she's from Florida. I was in town visiting her, and she said, Tyler, would you like to go to a counseling session with me? And I said, Jamie, I'm from Mississippi. We don't do that. And then I decided to go, and it turned out it was a life changing experience for me. So, as you could probably tell, I am a therapist now for a living, and it was transformational and helpful for me. I understand why people might struggle with the idea of therapy because what therapy does is it creates a container, a safe place where people can let their guard down. That feels very vulnerable because, in order to survive as a species, you don't really tend to let your guard down. The jobs that you do, the type of work that people have, it usually promotes them being ready to go and ready to fight so they can provide. So therapy can seem like a risk to that because it's the exact opposite. It's asking you to slow down and look at yourself. Another barrier that people have when it comes to therapy is it's about emotions. It's either an over focus on emotions or an under focus on emotions. Therapy is not teaching you or allowing you just to wallow in your feelings so you get stuck there. What therapy is it's helping you process through the emotions you are feeling and helping you have a way to process that stuff out so you can rise up and move forward. Oftentimes, people have a misconception. They think, I'm just going to go talk about my feelings and nothing's ever going to change. There are some people who might take that approach. That's not the approach I take because I don't think that's ultimately helpful. If you're over focusing or under focusing on emotions, both of those lead to negative outcomes. Under focusing and suppressing them doesn't work. It actually leaves you feeling more vulnerable, not feeling, it actually leaves you not thinking you are vulnerable because you're doing something about it and you're just moving forward. The problem with that is it does actually leave you very vulnerable when difficult things happen. Maybe you're taking care of your family by doing your job, but then you lose your job, or you have a series of unfortunate events, and all the skills and tools that you had to not feel your emotions don't work anymore, and then you're stuck with a backlog of emotions. Some people think this analogy is gross, but in reality, you want to treat your emotions like your digestive system. You don't want to be constipated where they're all stuffed in there, and you don't want to be having diarrhea where it's all over the place. What you want to do is have regular releases and discharges of those emotions so it doesn't leave you vulnerable to something popping your bubble and then them going all over the place. Therapy helps people develop tools and skills for processing and noticing what's going on so then it doesn't get stuck or come out in icky ways. It helps people get to know themselves. In life, people struggle with who the world has created them to be versus who they were made to be. Oftentimes, there's some similarities or differences between those two concepts, but when a person gets super rigid or super fixed, that's telling you that they might be taking an overly protected view because the reality of every situation is that we're all vulnerable people. Sometimes we just don't feel like it because of the things we do. Therapy, if done with the intent to repair, get to know yourself, and address the issues you're facing in your life head on, can be transformational and very, very helpful. It's not a sign of weakness. It could feel like weakness, which is totally valid, but it's actually strength. To have the humility to admit that you have some things you could work on, or that there's some areas you might be missing, and you're willing to take that risk to talk to another person about what's actually going on inside of you is very powerful, and it's also very scary. oftentimes people go to their death and they don't ever take the time to truly get to know themselves. Again, it's understandable why it happens, but it's not necessary. And all that to say, yes, therapy can be very helpful. It can also be scary, but is it worth taking that risk to actually get to know yourself? And does getting to know yourself position you to be a better provider, a better husband, a better spouse, a better wife, a better coworker, a better parent? Does getting to know yourself give you that opportunity to continue to grow as a human being?